Hey there, everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about how to use StatCrunch to access a data set. And we're also going to talk about how to create some box plots in StatCrunch. Okay, so we're going to have the computer do a lot of the work for us to create the charts, and then it'll be up to you to interpret those charts to get some answers to some of the data. All right, some of the questions. So let me take you to my browser. Okay, so here we are in the course website. And when you go down here, you'll see a link to the data set. Now, right now the link is right up there in the announcements. I might move it to a different place, so keep an eye on that. I'll make it clear where that ends up. And you'll see that the assignment specifies a data set over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. That's better. It says data set eggs, okay? And then the next page, it says dataset mortgage lending. Okay, so we have to go load those data sets into StatCrunch. Okay, so that's our job right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to StatCrunch. Let me go to the home page. So when you log into StatCrunch, you'll see something like this. Okay, so what you need to do first is join our group. It'll make it much easier for you to find the data sets because I'm going to post them in the data sets that we're going to use. I'm going to post them in our group, so they'll all be consolidated right there. Okay, so you need to join our group. So you're going to click on groups down here. Okay, after you log into StatCrunch, and I've assumed you've made an account already, and you're going to search for a group. All right, and the group is called MA336. Fall 2020. All right, and go ahead and hit enter, and you should see it come up here. Now, I've taught this class before and used this in other classes, so make sure you go into the Fall 2020 version of MA336. Don't go into a different one. And you'll be able to click this. And after you click it, I've already joined the group, so you're not going to see this here, but after you click it, you'll have the option to join it. Okay, let me show you that by going to a different group. Let me pick a random one here. So ignore that. You aren't going into this group here. How do I? Oh, got to really twist my arm to here. I'll cover it with my mouse. Okay, don't go there. All right. But you'll have an option. Oh, oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's right below my mouse. Let me right there. See, ask to join. Now I think you may not even need to ask to join. There'll just be a join button there. So you'll click join group. All right, and make sure you join the group. Okay, so after you've joined the group, you will be able to see, you'll see a little, my mouse is in the way. You'll see a menu of different aspects of the group that you can access. And the most important thing here is data sets. Okay, so when you access the data sets menu, you should see those data sets that were on that assignment. In this case, eggs and mortgage lending. And as we come across more assignments, we're gonna have more data sets appear here. Okay, so if you wanted to do the assignment and work on the eggs part of it, you're gonna click on eggs. Okay. And it will load in the eggs data set. Okay, and notice, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, you'll notice that you've got a data matrix down here where we have rows and columns. Now, the different rows are, each row is for a different observation. All right, each column is a different variable. Right, so notice that several variables were recorded in this study. There was fat content, lab, technician, and sample. Now, what are these talking about? Well, for that, you're going to want to go back to the description of the data set. So you're going to go back to the assignment, and you'll see you should read through this description. Describes how the data was collected and what they're looking at here. And then you'll also see variable descriptions. So those columns, those are described right here. It describes what they mean. Okay? So always look at this to make sense of what those columns actually mean. All right? Don't just blindly go to the data set and hope to figure out what you're doing just by, stumbling around. Read this stuff. This makes sense This will help you make sense of what you saw in that data matrix. Okay, now in the first problem here, they want us to use side-by-side box plots to compare the fat content between labs. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make a box plot. And to do that, I'm actually going to use a different data set because I don't want to give away the assignment. So I'm going to go make box plots using a different data set here. So let me make a new one. New data table. Here we go. Let me ignore what I'm doing. You won't need to do that. Okay, here we go. Here we have, and I think we don't need some of these columns. Okay, so here's a different data set. So I'm going to show you how to do the same things that you'll need to do with that data set, but with this one. Okay, so notice in this data set we just have two variables, sex and days. So different people were surveyed. They asked what's your sex, male or female, and then something to do with days. I don't know. I didn't read the details on this one. So, but let's talk about how to make a box plot. So a box plot is a type of graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the graph menu. And then you'll see there's all kinds of charts you can make here. But the graph that we're interested in is a box plot. Okay, so notice that you can select from different columns here. These are the different variables. So it's asking, what variable do you want to make the box plot for? Well, in this data set, there's only one variable that has numbers in it, so that's the only one that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to choose that one, days. And I can just go ahead and hit compute. And you'll note that it makes a box plot. Now there's some features of this box plot I want to point out. For one thing, it's vertical. The ones we were drawing in class were horizontal. No big deal. You can read the vertical one if you're fine with this. Go ahead and use it. Otherwise, if you don't like that, there is an option down here to draw boxes horizontally. So check that, and you can get a horizontal box. And if you want to scale it, make it look fit on the screen better, you can do that. There's another feature of this box plot, and that is it has specified outliers. Now that's something that we didn't talk about in our class. There is a way to indicate whether or not a certain value is considered an outlier and shouldn't be included in the box plot, but should otherwise instead just be specified by a little dot on the outside. Okay, and it has automatically done that. Since we're not doing that in our class, you might want to turn that off. So go here and somewhere on here, oh, here it is, use fences to identify outliers. Let's not do that, okay? So if I turn that off, we get the box plot as we would have constructed in our class with no outlier specified. So this is a box plot, and you can now read that and interpret it and hopefully answer some questions about it. Now, you may be asked to do some other things on this assignment. In the first question, you're asked to make several side-by-side box plots. Now, that is a very common thing you'll be doing with box plot, is comparing them side by side. All right. Now, if you look at our data, there wasn't just one variable, not just days. There's also sex. Now, sex can be either male, so we've got a lot of M's, or it can be female, so we see some F's. Where do they go? See some F's down here. So there's a mix of M's and F's. All right. So we might want a separate box plot for M's and for F's. All right, males and females. And we might want to look at them side by side. How would we do that? Well, what we have to do is we have to group the data into M's and into F's, and then tell StatCrunch to make a separate box plot for each data group. Okay, and it can do this. So go to Graph, go to Box Plot, and we're going to select what we want to create the box plot for, which is days. And notice it has a Group By menu. So you're going to group by. Now you're going to specify which variable are you grouping by. Well, we're grouping by sex, male and female. So if you do that, let's go ahead and draw our boxes horizontally and disable the outliers. Notice that now it creates two side-by-side box plots. One for males on the top and one for females on the bottom. And by comparing these side by side, I can get an idea about how males differ from females in this data set. Okay? And so that's what you'll be asked to do in the first project. Okay? Let me get a different data set, and we're going to look at how we can do something else, another way to make side-by-side box plots, and that's what you'll have to do with the second part of that project. Okay, so here I've loaded a different data set, okay, with two variables, temp1 and temp2. Okay, suppose I wanted to make a side-by-side box plot using the first variable for one box plot and the other variable for the other box plot. Okay, so now I'm not grouping a single variable into two box plots. I'm taking two different variables and viewing them side by side. So it's a different thing. So how do we do this? Well, what I do is I go to Boxplot, and notice that because each of these variables are numerical, I can create a box plot for each one. So what you can do is you can select both of these. Notice you can select more than one. You can do that by clicking with your mouse and dragging, or you can hold down the control button and click one and then click the other one, and you can get both. All right, and then you don't need to group by anything because we're not separating one variable into different parts. And we won't use fences to identify outliers, and we'll draw our boxes horizontally, and we'll go and compute, and you'll see that it makes side-by-side box plots just like before. But this time, it's two different variables, one for each box plot, as opposed to last time when it was a single variable made into different box plots by grouping by a different variable. All right, so two different ways to make side-by-side box plots. And so these are the ways that you can make box plots, and you'll use these to answer those questions on that assignment. Okay, I invite you to play around with this thing, look through these other things that it can do, other graphs, and we'll be using other aspects of this software to do things later on in the course. I want to point out one last thing. There's another way to load data sets. When you're in here, you don't have to go back to the main menu here. I think I even closed that. But you don't have to go back to the main menu to load data sets. You can actually do it right here. You can load, and what you would do is go to My Groups. Okay? And when you get into My Groups, you'll click the group that you're in. You'll probably only have one. I have several because I've run this with several classes. And then once you click on the group, you'll see all the data sets in that group. And so you can load the eggs data set or the mortgage lending data set. Okay? So that's another way to load data sets without having to go back to the main menu. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I hope that helps you out, and I'll catch you in the next one.